Welcome to the Women Inspired Podcast. I'm your host, April Seifert. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who is inspired to action, and that's my number one goal, to inspire you, my listeners, to take action in your lives. Each week, I get to interview some of the most inspiring women, and I'm bringing those interviews to you. Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Women Inspired Podcast. My name is April Seifert, and I am your host. And today, we have an extremely amazing and unique guest. It is someone who is working in a field that I have not yet covered on the podcast. So I am thrilled to have her on. Today, we will be talking to Dr. Diana Kirschner. She is a best-selling author. She is a psychologist, and she is a relationship expert. And I know it's going to be an amazing conversation. So welcome, Diana. I'm so thrilled to have you here.
I love it. I love being with you, April. I just love it.
So as we launch into this, I know we're going to get into some really interesting content because I have been digging around about you on the internet. But before we go there, help us get to know you a little bit and tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, it's interesting how this emerged. You know, it's like with so many people, my background had a lot of challenges when it came to love. I was the fifth daughter born to a Sicilian family that only wanted boys. So, you know, when I was born, my father said, oh, a fifth girl, I don't even want to see her. I don't even want to go to the hospital. So so that set the tone for my childhood. I mean, you know, my parents did the best they could. It was a situation, you know, where literally my father only said, I love you once to me, but he had been drinking. So, you know, when I started dating, it was horrendous. You know, there was every type of problem you could imagine. And, you know, I really had my heart broken constantly. And you know, I decided at some point that there must be such a thing as love, true love. There must be. And I went on a search, you know, to study love. And I wound up getting a PhD in psychology and studying everything I could about love. And the most important thing is that I was able to actually meet and marry my soulmate. And we've been married for decades.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much there that is under the covers that I'm actually thinking like I have 5 directions that I want to go and I'm not exactly sure which one to go in. So I'm going to maybe go in a couple of them at the same time, but they're related.
Absolutely.
When I hear you talk about your background, so your background with your dad, especially, and being the fifth daughter and just some of the detail that you gave us about that, and then how that likely or may have influenced some of your relationships as you started dating and really getting into more adult relationships. What is that connection there, either for you or in general? Because you've got an amazing perspective. You've got the perspective of your personal experience, and then you've got the perspective of, you know, a researcher and scientist who's really studied these topics broadly from, you know, a research-based perspective. So I'm not sure which one is the right question to ask, whether, you know, do you or how do you feel like that influenced your situation, or how does that typically influence people's situations?
Well, you know, what typically happens is whatever childhood wounds you have actually form kind of inner templates. And these are inner templates for how to relate to others, especially in love relationships, but it's actually in all relationships pretty much. So if you were abandoned, there are 3 types of main traumas that could have happened to you. One is being abandoned. Basically, you didn't get appreciation, affection, you know, nurturance. That is what happened to me, you know. The second thing is the second problem. Big core problem that could have happened is that you were actually abused, you know, that could be physical, that could be verbal, you know, that where you take that kind of thing in. And the third kind of trauma has to do with engulfment, where you're smothered, that kind of thing. And some people actually have more than one. They can have two or three, oscillating, smothering mother, an abandoning father, that kind of thing. But, so we tend to form templates for how to relate. And so in my case, for example, I kept choosing guys who would give me crumbs or give me nothing, any kind of little bit of attention I was so hungry for, because I didn't get that attention from the father. Mm-hmm. I didn't relate to loving guys. I didn't relate to loving men, to men who were loving. I related to narcissists, and I related to abusers, and I related to men who drank, right? My father drank, God rest his soul. And I related to that. So that's who I was involved with. And of course, we know where that leads, broken engagements, broken hearts, betrayals, abandonment. And it's very hard because you will tend to repeat those same wounds. So then the question becomes, how do you deal with that? Because if you don't deal with that, there's a certain bitterness and cynicism that can set in that can color your whole life.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So what is the other side of it all? What is the upside of it all? What is the possibility? What is the hope of it all? And what it is, and what happened in my life, and I'll start with a personal story, is in my own life, I had someone come in who I would describe as a fairy godmother. Mm. I was pretty much internally kind of like a Cinderella at the hearth with the ashes. And so this person came in like a fairy godmother, although it was actually a guy, but he was not romantic in any way. So this fairy godmother reparented me. The thing is, he would look at me and say, "You're special, you're amazing, you're incredible, you're smart, you're beautiful, you could achieve anything. You actually doing what I'm doing now." He said, you could become one of the most brilliant, you could become a really high profile psychologist. And I was very young, and I thought, well, he's crazy.
I'm sure it was hard to believe about yourself given what you were used to hearing, or not even hearing anything.
Yeah, my father used to refer to me as literally as a piece of shit. He used to refer to the 5 daughters as his 5 pieces of shit. And I thought he was crazy. But I kept, having the reparenting interactions. Something kept me in there with the reparenting interactions. And that something is a key. That's something. What it is that we also are open to a kind of healing, a special kind of healing, a special kind of reparenting that really, really, really addresses those wounds from childhood and heals them. Really, really, really heals them. We are wired for growth that way. And so we will also choose people who could potentially heal us, right? And sometimes they have aspects of both the negative parenting, and so they're wounding, but they also have positive, where they're reparenting or they're healing. So often, of course, that starts in the beginning of a relationship. You meet someone and you're blown away because they seem to be so appreciative and valuing of you and loving and smitten. And then, of course, we get into the other side of it. But to get back to what we're saying, the real bottom line for growth is that you can go home again. You see, you can go home again. You can go home and have your inner child reparented with caring and appreciation and validation and love.
I love that. So you and I, just by way of, for any audience members who may have picked up on the podcast since the last time I, spoke about this, you and I share a background in psychology, albeit in different disciplines within psychology. So my background is in social cognitive psychology, and what I think is really interesting about what you were just saying is these inner templates that you talk about, it's amazing to me that across all the different disciplines within psychology, there are foundational principles about just how people work, how our brain works, how our behavior works. And one of them is what you're hitting on. And so you in your field might call them inner templates. Me, in my field, we would call them scripts. So it's essentially the bottom line, to take it out of the context of both of our fields. It's a habit. It's a thing that feels comfortable. It's our homeostasis that, for better or worse, because exactly what you're saying, right? Abuse is not good for us. It doesn't feel good in the moment, but it is familiar and it is comfortable if that's the script or the template that you've developed. And being with someone with an alcohol problem, it doesn't make you feel good in that moment, but it is comfortable and familiar. And it's amazing what people will do to put themselves inside a comfort zone. And it's amazing what they will endure to stay there when that comfort zone may not even be good for them. And so I just think it's so interesting that there's such a connection between the type of psychology that you studied and the type that I studied, and that these habits are so incredibly powerful.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. They are, and actually it's useful to think of them as habits, because habits can be broken, habits can be changed. All of the latest research has shown that our brains are malleable. The neural nets are constantly able to, reform themselves. That's the neural connections in your brain. The brain is not hardwired. So you're not condemned to live with this wounded sense of self, this sense of self that where you feel like you're not good enough, or you're damaged, or whatever the particular program or template is. That area of the brain where that's actually happening is not fixed. It's not rigid. So you can actually affect that area of the brain. And later, I think, April, you said we were going to get into something where we will address that, how you actually do that, and do an actual exercise where you can get in there into that area and actually affect that and create what I call like a whole new deliberate positive identity. I actually call it the diamond self-identity. So, what we can do, because we have consciousness and we have our most powerful tool, which is attention. We can begin to shift these patterns in the brain and move them to where we want them to be.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive in there, because you're really going in the direction that I am hoping to take this next, and that understanding a bit about how, you and your team and how your research, how all of this works. And so how people might start to heal or change some of those templates or habits or scripts or whatever you want to call them. How do people do that? So let's dive right in there. You mentioned this diamond self-identity stuff. I'm an open book. I've shared so much with people on this podcast. So they kind of know me really well. So nothing that we're going to bring up is anything that is sacred or too vulnerable for me.
Okay. I love that. I love that about you. That's awesome. Yeah. So, the thing is that we're each born with very unique gifts and talents, funny, creative, smart, this, that, and the other thing. And when we were toddlers, that was just all there and unfolding until we started getting crushed or hurt, by the environment, by the people in the environment. And so the core, what I call the diamond self, is the real authentic self that it starts with the real authentic self that was present there when you were born, and that is still there no matter what has happened. On top of that, you can actually deliberately, consciously embellish that and add to it And we do many, many exercises in the Love Mentor coaching program around this diamond self work. In fact, it's the favorite part of our work with women and men all around the world, actually. Then you can embellish that authentic gift, that authentic diamond you are. One of the ways you do that is by actually naming yourself. And naming yourself is so powerful because you're beginning to affect that neural net that has to do with your identity. And so then you build on that. You absolutely build on that. And the funny thing is that in the Love Mentor coaching program, we've had women do this, and they not only wind up in amazing relationships, but they wind up writing a book they wanted to write. They wind up actually, doing the podcast, getting the job they wanted, because when you start shifting at the level of identity, it's even deeper than affirmations. Mm-hmm. Is at the level of identity, that just colors and shapes everything, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's just an incredible process. So do you want to just do one of the core diamond self exercises right now?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm up for it.
I love it. Okay, so you just follow along, and the rest of you who are listening, please do the exercise. Don't just listen. Except if you're driving. If you're driving, obviously, it's not a good idea unless you can pull over. Okay. So April and everyone, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to remember a time that you felt really, really, really good. And you felt at home in the world, and you felt lovable. You felt loving. You felt empowered. And it could have been a time from your early childhood. It could be a time from your later childhood or adolescence, early adulthood. Just remember that time. And if you're having trouble remembering any time like that, just kind of imagine what it would be like to feel that way. And those of you who have accessed a scene from your past, make sure you're in the scene and looking through your own eyes. Do you have it, April?
I do.
Awesome. So now I'd like you to give it a soundtrack, a beautiful soundtrack. And I'd like you to feel all the feelings that are in that great scene. Good. And now make the visuals even brighter. What you're looking at, what you're seeing, make it even better, more beautiful. You got that? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now make the whole thing 5 times better. You got that?
I do.
Oh, beautiful. Now 5 times better than that.
Oh my God, I don't even know if it's possible.
Okay. This is your diamond self, and you can go ahead and give your diamond self a nickname. Now, some of the nicknames people have chosen are Saucy Minx, Vivacious Vixen, Beloved Mighty Isis, Chosen Irresistible One, Beloved Angel, Soaring Wonder Woman. The sky's the limit on your nickname. The sky is the limit on your diamond self nickname, even if it feels foolish or like too much. But you just go with it. Whatever comes to mind. You might want to use your name in it, like Awesomely Amazing April.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Awesomely Amazing April. That fits you. My goodness gracious. So what's coming to mind?
So to give you a little background, the scene that I was imagining was from my honeymoon with my husband. We took a trip to Tanzania in Africa. We hit the northern Serengeti, almost into Kenya, almost. And I literally felt like I mean, it was completely remote. You couldn't get a cell phone or Wi-Fi to work. We were a plane ride away from the closest town. We were literally staying in the middle of the Serengeti with animals everywhere, in this remote, beautiful, open, incredible place. And I felt like my soul exploded when I got to that place. It was the most exciting, yet peaceful, yet, I don't know, interesting, engaging place. And so where I'm kind of navigating and what I really identify with is this idea of being, either an explorer or someone who's constantly seeking new information or a new experience or a new place or I love interviewing people because I like interviewing or meeting new people and getting their stories. So something about beautifully open explorer or something like that.
How about the adventurous goddess?
Ah, yes.
I almost want to say of the hunt, but it's of the sacred hunt,
Yes, yes.
It really helps to have someone who can help you in this diamond self process. It really, really does. That's why, a lot of the women, those names I gave you, suggestions or ideas were actual names that women in our Love Mentor coaching program have chosen for themselves. And, they've had some help, a little bit of help coming up with the actual name. You want to come up with a name that sends you. It just actually sends you. Like it might give you chills. Like there was one spiritual woman who's having a lot of trouble in her marriage, and she was working with her coach, and she came up with the name Beloved, Uplifting Fragment of the Divine Light. It could be a spiritual name too, but it's and that really just gave her chills. So you want the name to actually send you, really inspire you, and sometimes it also makes you cringe. Why would it make you cringe? It makes you cringe. Like when I did my first diamond self work, I cringed. I was like, oh, that's too grandiose for me. That's too good for me. That's too powerful for me. That's not me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, there's totally a time in my life where I would have felt like that.
Yes.
Less so now, but yes, there 100% was.
Yes. Yeah. So that's how you know you're in the zone. That's how you actually know you're in the zone. And that's, of course, something that cringing, that shame. It's that shame most of us carry, because we've been hiding our light under a bushel basket. We've been hiding our light. And it's that shame that when it comes up, you actually are near to the right name. You're really near the right name. And that's something, of course, that's really helpful to have somebody help you with, to liberate you from that shame. But I love this. Yeah, actually, I'm thinking of you, the adventurous goddess of the sacred uplifting hunt.
I love that.
Because you're definitely uplifting too.
I really love that. And it's like the hunt for a lot of different things. I mean, I'm going after a lot of different animals.
Yes, sacred and uplifting, that hunt. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love it. So you do this work with people and you help them, craft this identity and embody this amazing core identity. How does that parlay over into their relationships? How do you...
Oh my goodness, it changes everything. When you're the saucy minx or the vivacious vixen, once you anchor that in, like the women who really do a lot of the diamond self exercises and they follow through. Part of the following through, by the way, and you guys could do this easily, is to go shopping and dress, in other words, your name. In other words, whatever your name is. For example, April, you would go shopping and see what the adventurous goddess of the sacred uplifting hunt would like to wear. Because you go shopping and your diamond self identity picks out completely different clothes. It really does. You might get a cape or, a piece of costume jewelry. a ring or a bracelet that reminds you of who you really are, And then you do some exercises before you go on a date, before you even go online, to center you in this new identity. And what happens in terms of dating is it winds up then raining men. If you're a woman. That energetic connection. What happens when you're really working your diamond self is you get your charisma back, you get your mojo back, you get your good energy back. You get, even though you've been through the mill, you've been hurt, you've been betrayed, you've been cheated on, whatever has happened, you get it all back and then some. Because if you have the courage to climb again, to be the phoenix from the ashes, to come up again on the road of love, and I do think the road of love is the most painful, the most difficult road often. You're blessed even more. You're blessed even more. You find more aspects of your beautiful diamond self, and you've been around the block, and you're smart, and you don't have to fall for the scripting or the templates of wounding like you did before. The adventurous goddess doesn't play that game anymore, doesn't go for that anymore,
Well, and what it seems like is, we talked earlier about these comfort zones that maybe, and scripts and templates, whatever we want to call them, habits, this homeostasis that feels really comfortable and familiar. It seems like, and again, I'm putting my social psychologist hat on, I can't help it, but it seems like what you're doing for people is by giving them this new identity and asking them to, have a piece of jewelry or clothes or something like that would help remind them of it and really start to embody this identity. It seems like you're creating a new comfort zone, like you're creating a new space where this type of person would live, and who would she hang out with, and what would she put up with, and what would she ask for, and what would she give back. And it's almost like you're creating brick by brick this new comfort zone that maybe you can live in and let go of some of those old scripts and habits and templates that you once had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Over time, that becomes the new comfort zone. Over time, if you keep working with it, when you meet someone who's on that old wounding level, the old level you used to feel comfortable with, it's a turnoff. And you can see it immediately. Why? Because there's a big contrast between where you are energetically and where that person is energetically. You're at a higher level energetically. And so you see that they're kind of absent or vacant or unconscious. You can see it right away. You can see those red flags because you're working on your diamond self. And of course, you go into all different other areas of creativity that you wouldn't even ordinarily go into because that's, where the diamond self likes to express itself. And long held dreams that were not actualized can become actualized.
I love it. I can imagine you have some amazing stories of transformation from people that you and your team have worked with over the years. And I don't know if this is appropriate or not to ask, but is there anything that you can share about just, gains or changes or transformations that people who have worked with you and your team have experienced? And obviously no details, no personal anything, but just to give my audience a flavor of the power of this type of work.
Yes. Well, there's so many cases. I'm like,
can you narrow it down? I'm sure it's difficult.
I'll talk about a case. A woman came from a horrible family situation. She was in her early 40s, and in her family situation, she had a very crazy father who would threaten to kill the entire family. Wow. Her mother was very weak, clinging to this man for stability and security. And this young woman was very smart and very talented, and yet she absolutely could not succeed in dating. What would happen is that she was attractive too, but she would get involved with someone and they would simply disappear on her because internally she was so traumatized that she would be frozen, kind of not really present in the dates. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't real. Mm-hmm. She wasn't able to be real. You're not able to be real. The chemistry really can't happen. And so, she came into the Love Mentor coaching program. She worked on her diamond self. I think her diamond self name was something, she had roses. She loved roses. So it was, chosen, something like chosen irresistible rose of radiance. And the chosen was a very important part of it for her. You see, the chosen part, of course, was healing. She was naming her own healing there, which is to be chosen. And, she started feeling that, living into that and feeling better and better. I think her income doubled, which is not, was not the original intent, but it did.
But not a bad byproduct. Also.
No. And she is now dating two very interesting guys. I mean, very interesting, high-level guys who are pretty stable. Now, that is unheard of with that kind of background. Generally, you just don't get that. It's a super success story, and I know she'll wind up married. We just have such beautiful marriage and wedding stories, Mm-hmm. There was one that got married on the beach and a double rainbow appeared. It was just so beautiful.
Ah.
Yeah. So, but you see, she worked with a coach, and the coach was a fairy godmother, was a healing agent, was a reparenting agent, really devoted, really caring, really extraordinary. And when you have that, which is so healing, that's what really makes it all work, you see. I have this team. I've been very blessed to have this team of Love Mentor coaches, and they're handpicked by me. They're all trained by me and supervised. And the essential feature of each one of them is they're extremely devoted and loving. But they're also very smart and knowledgeable. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But they have what it takes. They have the right stuff to be fairy godmothers. I'll tell you so.
I love it.
So people will actually write in and say, I want to let you know that no one has helped me. No one, no therapist, no coach, no one has helped me as much as you have. We've literally have testimonials like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because it's it's a very profound relationship.
Absolutely. So let's say that, someone in my audience is interested and has things that they want to heal and wounds that they want to work on in this area. How can people find you? How can people get in touch with you and your team? And how does all of that work?
Well, the absolutely great news is that I can offer your listeners a whole 40-minute session by phone or Skype as a gift with one of these Love Mentors. And all you need to do is go to lovein90days.com. That's lovein90days.com and click on the coaching tab at the top there, and you'll see a little form. And here's the important part. When you do that, when you fill out the form, please say, April sent me. Now, if you say April sent me, I will guarantee, I'll guarantee that you get your session. It's by phone or Skype. Often we have way too many requests for sessions and we have to turn people away. But if you would like a free session, you can work on your diamond self name. You can work on any issue or problem you're having right now, whatever you would like. And I uh, you just have to let April know what happens because
I would love that. That is so generous and so wonderful. And for people who are contemplating doing this, like it seems really, I don't know, maybe it seems cheesy or whatever it is, but there, like I said, there is so much connection between what Diana's saying from her field of psychology and the research and background that I know from the field that I studied. And even just the little bit that we were discussing, it's amazing how when it's your story and it's your background and it's you giving yourself the name that really connects with you. Maybe my name doesn't, the name that we chose for me, this adventurous goddess of the sacred hunt, maybe that doesn't resonate with you all out there. But this idea of this adventurous goddess, I mean, it does resonate with me. And I can see myself, in times when I need confidence and in times when I need to put myself in the right state of mind, really embodying that name. And so for those of you who are thinking about whether you'd want to take Diana up on this to work with her team, I would highly suggest it. It was a really cool exercise to think through just about myself. And I can imagine that you get into even better stuff within that 40 minutes that you work with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. People really, if they want to create a name, they do that. Or we had one woman after her session, she came in, she's like, oh, I don't know how to get my boyfriend to commit. We've been dragging on for, years. After her session, she understood exactly what she could do to help him rise to the occasion. She was able to get engaged after, talking to a coach about it. It's just incredible. So whatever you may be dealing with, you can bring it to the table there and really work on it.
Wonderful. This has been amazing. I so appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you sharing your personal background. That is so vulnerable, but wonderful when people are willing to open themselves up and talk about where they came from, because it helps us understand who you are and understand where all of the passion that you have for your work comes from. And so I really appreciate you sharing that story. And then too, sharing this knowledge with all of us and how we can really deepen our relationship with ourselves and with other people in our lives. I can completely see how this would really up-level what we're all trying to do. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Oh, I had a wonderful time. You're amazing, adventurous goddess.
Now, before I let you go, I have to ask you one more question, which is the question I ask every single person on the podcast. We are compiling a Spotify Power playlist of motivational songs to help people keep themselves pumped up throughout the week. And I have to ask you for your contribution to our Spotify playlist.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, I think that love is the hardest road, the most challenging road. And so the song I would add is I Will Survive.
Yes, that's so awesome.
I will survive, no matter if it seems impossible, no matter if it seems like your situation is absolutely unusual and terrible and impossible. The truth is you will survive and you will thrive.
I love it. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being on our episode this week.
Oh, thank you, April. This was great.
I so hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Dr. Diana Kirschner. When I think about the topic that she has focused her research and her writing and her, outreach work on, it reminds me of a lot of the really foundational work in the field of positive psychology. Sometimes that field gets the reputation of, focusing on happiness and just trying to be happy. And isn't that, strange that somebody would try to smile and pretend that something is happy all the time? And that's not what that field does. It's much more nuanced than that. There's actually several different factors that positive psychology studies, happiness and positive emotion being one of them, but there's a lot of other factors that they study to figure out what goes into creating a fulfilling, flourishing life. And one of those key areas is close relationships with other people. So cultivating a tribe of people where you have a close intimate relationship with them because it allows you to feel connected to other people. It gives you a group of people you can reach out to for support. There are so many benefits in the literature to cultivating these great close relationships. So I think it's incredible that Diana is spending her time focusing and has spent her career studying and focusing how to help people get better close relationships. Now, what I thought was really cool is the part of our conversation where we got into this idea of having these templates or mental scripts that are sort of embedded in our mind, and they sort of influence who we feel comfortable with in our relationships. It is so dang interesting. If you think about literature on abuse, and people who come from abusive homes are at a higher likelihood, it's not a guarantee, but a higher likelihood of finding partners who also have those abusive tendencies. And for a long time, people were just completely flabbergasted as to why this would happen, because it's such an aversive and negative experience to be in those situations of abuse. But when you really think about the conversation that Diana and I had about these mental scripts and these mental templates and the degree to which people will strive to stay in a situation that makes them feel comfortable and familiar. And I don't mean comfortable from like a physical comfort standpoint. I'm talking psychologically and emotionally here. If it feels comfortable and familiar, we're more likely to stay in it. I mean, taking it totally out of this context, how many times have you or somebody close to you been in a situation with maybe a friend, or even been in a situation at work, at a job, where you were not doing well anymore? That job just wasn't challenging you, or they told you flat out that you would never move up from where you are now, yet you stay. And part of the reason why people stay is because it is the beast they know. It's familiar. And the idea of stepping into something that is unfamiliar, that they don't know as well, is extremely scary for people. And it just doesn't feel good. So what's neat about Diana's approach is this idea of working on yourself first in order to attract, a love interest type person. There's so much science behind that, because you're working on, creating the person in yourself that you are truly comfortable with, that you are truly meant to be. And it really then helps alleviate some of that posturing and fakeness that can happen at the beginning of relationships. If there's a solid grounding with both of those people in who they are, it becomes much easier to cultivate a great relationship from the start. And it also makes it much more likely that the templates and the scripts that you're working from are ones that are going to lead you to a relationship that is much healthier and much better for you. So I would really suggest that you guys take Diana up on her offer to do her free 40-minute coaching session with one of her team. So she gave me a little ditty to give you a little bit more information. She said, best-selling love expert Dr. Diana has handpicked and trained a team of awesome love mentor coaches. And you can talk with one of them for free for 40 minutes by phone or Skype. If you have any pressing dating or love questions, sign up for your free session now. Just go to Love in 90 Days. So that's lovein90days.com/dating-coach. And you'll be talking to a wise, helpful love mentor very soon. And to make sure that you get your session, you have to say that April sent me, and you'll get your VIP treatment in your session. So I really hope you guys will reach out to her. It's funny because we, did the diamond self-identity stuff while we were talking on this episode. And I literally have been walking around with wearing that hat for the last day or so, since we talked and before I recorded this. I'm really starting to grow into this idea that I could be the adventurous goddess of the sacred and uplifting hunt. I mean, how crazy is that? But actually kind of cool. So I really want you guys to have the same type of experience. I would highly suggest you reach out to Diana. Like I said, cultivating close relationships is something that is a big pillar within positive psychology. It has been shown to be one of the factors that helps us create a flourishing, amazing, thriving, fulfilling life. And it's worth it to do the work to find the right person and work on yourself at the same time. So I really, really hope you guys loved this interview. Before we close out today, I want to say thank you to my producer, Cameron Hill. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit from this content. And if you have a moment, click the link in the episode description to leave me a rating and a review on iTunes. It would mean so much to me. Finally, if you're ready to start making changes in your life to align your day with your goals and your values and what fills you up, I have a free tool to help you get started. Sign up at aprilseifert.com to get immediate access to my free Life by Design life blueprinting tool. I designed this tool using theory from the fields of psychology and design thinking, and it will absolutely help you get clear on the areas of your life that are serving you and those that aren't. Clarity is a critical first step before you can design your own best life. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Until next time, have an inspiring week.